following TLOY episode is a throwback interview that I did in the past. This will now be formatted as a podcast episode.
All right, so let's start it off right now, man. So, growing up in Alhambra / like LA, were there like ever like any inspirations from there that made you want to pursue more in the music scene?
Yeah, man. See, like the interesting thing about growing up in Alhambra is that it is right next to LA, but it's still like its own culture. But LA culture is like so big that like the blast impact of just culture from the middle of LA is just so huge that it just leaks out. I mean, like Compton and all these other famous areas of music are literally like 30 minutes away, and you would think that that's a little far to some people, but man, the impact of the music of Dre, Snoop, NWA, Pac, and all these guys, like, it's huge, man. I mean, it's worldwide, so if I'm right next to the radius of it, then obviously it's going to be a huge impact to me. Yeah, pretty much.
True. And I guess with Alhambra, like I don't know if you're like Filipino or like another like Asian subset. Like I don't know if Alhambra has like a high like Asian like population, or is it?
Yeah, I am Filipino actually. That's it. But the thing with Alhambra is, I would say it is a large populace of just a lot of different Asians, Chinese, Vietnamese, but it's like, I don't know, it's still like a melting pot because there are a lot of Hispanics around, and there are some people who are black, some white people, some other ethnicities as well. But I would say definitely mostly Asians. But I grew up around a lot of. I did like grow up with kids who were Asian, Mexican, black, so I was able to see everybody and respect everybody. Even like got some of the culture from other ethnicities that are more. Because me, man, I came from the Philippines, bro. So when I came here, I was like a fish out of water. And I basically had a fat culture shock, and I just had to learn how to float, and I just grabbed onto whatever I could, and maybe picked up some terms, maybe picked up some attitudes or some certain lifestyles of different ethnicities, so I'm just like, yeah. Pretty much, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's dope. And just with like a lot of like rising acts like in LA, I know like you might have known of like Shoreline Mafia, like Boogie, Buddy, Blueface, and like out of like hip hop like Kuko. What are your thoughts on the music scene in LA? And do you feel that there should be like any improvements for the scene there, or do you feel like it just should remain the same in a way?
Well. For a while there was a big hiatus in the West where the West is known for just prominent West Coast leaders and just the culture. Like you got Pac, like I said earlier, Pac, Dre, NWA, Snoop. These guys were like top dogs in hip hop and whatnot. And then for a while after a little bit of their era was not going down but more settling out, there was a little bit of a hiatus in the culture where there was nobody to pick up that mantle in the West. And I felt like, Game came back and just put the West back on the map. And then from there was a revival of hip-hop culture. Kendrick came out, Schoolboy Q, even just everybody in TD and the artists you mentioned. So I feel like the West is on a good track. I mean, as far as for me, though, I do want to be able to get that mantle and get that respect of the next leader in the West Coast. And I know it's a little difficult because I'm not from the hood or the projects or whatnot, but I have a certain love and respect for this culture that I believe that if I were to ever to get the mantle or / torch in this game, I felt like I would treat it with the enormous amount of respect because I know the history of this game. I'm a fucking student and I've been studying this shit, and all those artists you mentioned, I have love for anybody trying to pursue this shit, like, because this shit ain't easy, man. Like, this shit is a fucking war, and everybody that's going after what they need to, regardless of how their music sounds, as long as they're going after it, I feel like, that's where they should be respected.
True. Yeah, because I know, like, with LA, like, like the West Coast music scene actually happens to be like sort of like one of my favorite like music scenes. So
Yeah,
just like realizing from the way that they never like switched up the flow, like to keeping like that lyricism like alive, just with
yeah,
that stellar like wordplay, word for word, bar for bar. Like I think the West Coast scene happens to be like more original than like other like parts because I know, but like I feel like with one problem with the West Coast is like maybe with media coverage, I do feel like that it's not as exposed or it's not as recognized as other parts from now than it was before because now you have Atlanta, you have New York, now like
yeah,
Miami, Texas, and like those are like more like the South's like pretty much more rising, whereas like the West it was rising like when Dre, Snoop, The Game, and like E40 were like all popping. So yeah.
yeah, man. I feel like now is a beautiful time in music where everybody's finding their sound and becoming a prominent name in the culture. Like those cities that you mentioned, man, they all make great music. We all make great music, and I feel like hip hop is just one big family, and we could all learn from each other. You know, like if it wasn't for the East starting hip hop in general, then the West wouldn't have learned, and if the West wouldn't have learned, then the South wouldn't have learned. You know, so it's just a domino effect, and I feel like Atlanta and all the new cities on the rise right now. I feel like they're leading us into the unknown, which is great. You know, like we're taking turns charging into the dark, and yeah, man, I love all these rappers and shit. It's just I just hope that we understand how powerful hip hop is, because hip hop I feel like is, if not the most powerful aspect of culture, especially because aside from sports or whatever, you know, we're a very powerful aspect of culture, and we need to realize that responsibility. And I feel like with Dre, Snoop, and them, I feel like they realized that responsibility after learning from like Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and the ones that came before them, who showed them the ropes, you know, and the West just took it to another level for hip hop. And yeah, we are going up again, but I feel like we need to combine together as like a conglomerate and find a way to just work together and make better decisions for us and for everybody around us.
No doubt, no doubt. I know that you said that you grew up like in the Philippines, and then I think you moved to LA. So I think growing up at the time, what was like your musical history and background like, and what inspired you to become a rapper and musician?
Yeah, man. Well, I grew up in the Philippines, and then I moved to America when I was like 3 or 5, and then I went back to the Philippines. But I was always learning English, like watching English TV shows, just listening to songs. But I finally stayed here when I was 8 years old or 9 years old, and like I said, I was in a culture shock when I first got here, so I had no clue of my identity. Even at times, I was ashamed of my identity, being this Asian kid, looking different from everybody else that I knew, and like not having anybody to relate with. And I felt like hip hop was the first thing that I connected with, and that made me feel like confident and gave me that strength to be who I am. Almost like, I don't want to say it because it might be blasphemous, but in a way, like I treated it like a religion in a way. You know, I was very committed to hip hop, and I was just in love with it. The early influences was definitely everybody on the West Coast for sure. You know, like the first people I listened to was probably like I think Dre and Snoop were the first artists that I've ever listened to from here, and then added Black Eyed Peas too, and then Eminem, of course, which is probably the biggest, like I would say, biggest influence to my style. But of course, I learned more of new artists. As far as musical background, my mom is a singer, or she was a singer too, so she still sings from time to time. Me, I played the violin, the cello, and the piano, but I never finished learning any of those. So I just like got to like 25% of learning, and then I stopped. But yeah, so I try to take from every genre of music as far as like influence, whether it's like country, R&B, pop, whatever other genres there are. I always try to just listen to the art of everything, and because at the end of the day, the shit is art. You know, we're artists. What we create is art, and some people don't really understand that I could listen to hip hop hella, but I could also love like rock and roll to like a certain level, you know, and respect these artists, bro. Like I can watch Marilyn Manson videos because it's just like I don't know, like, but that shit's just dope to me, you know. And yeah, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, with learning the violin, cello, and like the piano as well, it also teaches you about like music, like composition, and also with
Yes.
notes. So like that's like also something that people would actually take in, that could actually perfect in their craft like later on throughout the years as well. And like that's a dope point to like hear out.
No, yeah, man. I mean, even though it's been years and it's been some time since I've studied it, it's still like in my subconscious from time to time. And whenever I see or hear something, I would realize what it is as far as like the composition of it without even really trying it. It just pops up like that because of all the training that I've had throughout the years. Yeah, man, it's dope.
True. And like when I was like listening to, I think, two of your tracks on Spotify, Blessed
Yeah.
and like 5150, I know most of your music's mainly on like SoundCloud, so I would have to check those out like later on. But
Yeah.
speaking about those two tracks in general, like tell me about the creative process for those tracks and what inspired you to make them.
Well, 5150 is probably, I think I wrote that when I was like 17, and I didn't even release it till I was like 19. It was just, to me, I was just so frustrated. I was still in my stage of teenage rebellions where I was like, this is real hip hop, blah, blah, blah. You know, but as I grew older, of course, I learned to appreciate the different aspects of hip hop. But at that time, at that point in time, I was just, I want to write the hardest shit and the most fucking bars and the shit that I could fit in, just some hard ass shit that I would, because I listen to a lot of Big L and like a lot of Nas and a lot of like, like Jay, like Reasonable Doubt Jay, and these guys were just fucking going at your throats, like just with bars, and you're like, oh shit. So I just wanted to create something like that would like sound great, A lot of people still don't understand it to this day. Like when I share with people, they're like, yeah, it's cool. I'm like, bro, you don't understand how dope this shit is. Like, if you were to show this to a fucking person that knows their shit about hip hop, they'll tell you how dope this shit is, And I feel like this shit's still a little bit underrated, but it's cool. I mean, it was a learning lesson. As far as Blessed, that was actually like the first trap song I've ever made, and like that again, it was just another thing where I got tired of people saying, yo, you need to make trap songs, you need to stop rapping in the 90s style, because nobody really listens to that style. I was like, I got pissed. I was like, bro, this shit's so easy. Like, that trap shit is so easy to make. Well, now as I go further, I'm realizing it's a little difficult, but at the time, I was like, this shit's fucking easy to make, Like, I can do this shit in my sleep. And, again, this is all in retrospect. I don't want to, I've had growth since these thoughts. But, yeah, I was just like, I need to just make this track just to prove to motherfuckers, to show that I can do this easy shit, And I wrote that shit after I got the beat from a homie named 420 Shinobi. Shout outs to him. We developed a good friendship from that track because of, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I will always be blessed and grateful for that beat. And I just fucking rap my ass off on it, and it is one of my favorite songs nowadays. Even my friends, when they first started, they were like, yo, I can't believe you rap like that. That's fucking crazy. Yeah. And I guess a lot of my shit comes from, a lot of my best stuff, quote unquote, comes from me feeling like I got a chip on my shoulder, which I need to get rid of. But hey, man, if it works, it works, Yeah.
And I think, like, as you said, with making, like, trap music, like, you thought it was, like, pretty easy, but, like, when you realize it, like, now it's way difficult than it looks. I know, like, just to, like, for me to add in, I think it's more in terms of, like, production and, like, mixing, too, because I know in some cases, too, trying to mix auto-tune, trying to mix all the other like flows and all the other like productions within it, like it takes time, like breath by breath, take by take as well. So I think that's also like one point like to realize too, because with music, like it changes over time depending on the era, the style, like what's hot, what's not hot, and all that type of stuff too.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly why I found it to be a little more difficult. It's more of I want to say like a composition in contrast to the 90s style, which you just put a beat and you just fucking rap over it and you're good. You don't need a lot of shit. You just need to be dope. But that's where trap, I actually do respect trap in that manner, because now you could have some dope shit, but if you can't get the party jumping with your shit, then that shit's whack, you know? Like, but this is why I think trap is still in the foundations of the original hip-hop ideals, because the original hip-hop, man, they just get on the mic at a party and you just gotta rock the party, you know? And if you rock the party and you're the life of the party, then that means you're dope as fuck. And that's why I feel like Future, Migos, Young Thug, and all these guys I look up to, I feel like people don't understand that aspect of hip-hop, where if you can control the vibe of the party, or just the vibe and the energy of the track, then it means, because if you put on any Future song and you just start bobbing your head, and that's so difficult to do, like, to get a person to do that. It's so difficult. So for them to master that craft, it's amazing, you know? And, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Actually, from like for the next question, I actually first heard of you like when you went on from Rhythm and Flow on Netflix,
Yeah.
and like one of the most like memorable like scenes from there was you coming through and Cardi B like comparing you to like a Best Buy worker,
Yeah.
which is like actually like pretty funny in a way too. And like since the show was released and you managed to take part in it, what made you decide on wanting to take part in the audition process? Like, what was like the experience like when you auditioned and stepped foot to the LA stage, where not only you auditioned for Cardi B but for Chance the Rapper and T.I. as well?
Well, it's it was a blessing, first and foremost, to be able to meet everybody that auditioned. They said out of 90,000 contestants, we were chosen. Only 30 people were chosen, and I think only like 20 or 15 performed in front of the judges, and I was one of them. And I felt grateful for that. I felt like I was one of the dopest MCs in LA, so that gave me a huge amount of confidence. When I stepped on that stage, I just fucking wish they really showed my audition. Like, straight up, I wish they showed my audition, because what they showed on Netflix was, I feel like, more of a joking or like gag reel instead of something real, which is what I wanted to go for. After what Cardi B said, she actually said, when you first came out, I thought you worked at Best Buy. Everybody laughs, cute the laughs, right? But right after that, she's like, but after you rap, you really impressed me, and you really made me happy, and I'm so proud of you, and I love you, and I love you for what you said and stuff like that, and even T.I. was like, when you first came out with all that energy, I thought you weren't going to do well, because not a lot of rappers can come out with that kind of energy and start rapping really well, but I feel like you pulled it off, and the beat that you chose is a very, very difficult beat to rap on. And I'm happy as fuck when they're saying this shit. And then Chance was like, you remind me of like an Asian Eminem, bro. Like, I saw you mess up a little bit, like lost air in a couple of spots, but you really do remind me of like an Asian Eminem. And I was like, oh shit, like Eminem's the one. So I felt happy, And then Snoop was also there as the guest judge. And when it got to Snoop, he was saying how I need to take things more seriously. As far as just opportunities come, like when I first came out, I can't be coming out looking like that, because it diminishes what I'm trying to go for. Yes, the bars were real as fuck. Yes, what I was saying was real as fuck. But when I come out with that energy and try to make myself look like a fool, a lot of people are not going to respect that. And I understood that. He's my OG. He's my OG. But after he said that, I felt like the other judges kind of agreed with him, because that's when they didn't want to let me on the show, like let me into the next round. And obviously I was hurt. But I kind of took it to the chin, because I felt like I understood. I understood what Snoop said, and this is my test. Right now is my test to really take this shit seriously. Like, do I really want this shit? Because, do I want to squander another opportunity like that? And, a lot of people could be mad at him, and a lot of people could hate him for that, but he's my OG, and we listen to our OGs on the West Coast. And he's basically saying, all right, do this shit again and do it better. He didn't say, exactly. So, and I just respect him for that, and I love him for that, and I hope to meet him again one day and hopefully be able to speak to him about this situation that's helping me grow. But man, when it first happened, bro, I was just so broken. Like, it hurt, like I felt like, fuck, this was the biggest opportunity I've ever gotten in my life, and I fucked it up. I was mad, I was sad, I was happy, it was just a bomb of emotions that I had to go through. But yeah.
I know what you mean. And I know, like, even with it being, like, televised too, like, although, like, you didn't make it to, like, the rounds where, like, the certain rounds where people were actually working with all these other people and, like, performing on, like, big stages with, like, big artists, you at least managed to get yourself televised for a bit too. So, like, even if people, like, see you on the street, they'll recognize you from the TV show, like, maybe within the first 5 to 10, like, seconds. But, like, even, like, after that televised audition, what was the impact like for you, like, once it was, like, finally shown on, like, Netflix, and if you, like, ever received any recognition or criticism or other, like, impacts from other people from that show?
Well, it was a mixture of different things, I mean, I only had like 13 seconds. I counted that shit. I was like, how many seconds am I on this shit? 13 seconds I was on TV, but I got a bunch of new followers on Instagram. I had a bunch of people message me telling me good shit. I had homies from like high school telling me good shit. And, like, of course, my best friends are like, "Yo, you fucking did that shit, boy. You're on that shit now." But there was also the negative aspects of it. I've had people make fun of me for coming out looking like that because they didn't see the other side of it, And I had it kind of sucked because now I just always reflect on it and think about my defeat. But it's a two-sided coin because I need to focus more on how much I've grown since then as an artist, and how much my perspective on this game has changed since then, because I definitely felt like I got a mental breakdown / mental awakening as far as how much I really love this shit. Because when Snoop said that, it was more like I had to ask myself, I'm like, how do you feel about this game? Like, how much do you love this shit? Like, you've been rapping since you were like 9, 8 years old, and are you really for real about this shit, or are you just fucking around as the waves pass by? And I'm still in the process of answering that question, but I'm going towards, like, I'm serious about this shit, and I know I'm serious about this shit. And also, I had ex-girlfriends text me. They're like, "Oh my god, congrats on being on the show." Like, bitch, get the fuck off my messages. No one wants to fucking talk to your ass.
Yeah.
But that shit was funny. And I also got to network with some of the artists there, and I got to see, like, the most important part of that show for me. I got to see what the playing field was like. So when I walked into that, like, I would say green room, quote unquote, I got to see the best rappers in my city. I got to talk to the best rappers in my city, and ask myself, "Yo, do I belong here?" And the first thing I thought, I was like, "Yo, I belong here." Like, I might not be as confident or have as much accolades as some of these people, but I know that I can stand toe to toe against any of these guys as my peers and be as great as any one of these guys. And, yeah, they inspire me, man. And, as long as I brush up on some things and continue practicing certain skills, it's gonna make me better.
And I mean, like, on that LA stage too, you had, like, people like D Smoke, who actually like won the show, Inglewood, like Ivy, Troy Man, and I think this other guy that was, like, known for, like, wearing, like, the suits and all that. So you managed to at least, like, network and, like, meet those people, like, even during, like, that audition process. So that must have been, like, a great feeling, like, seeing, like, them, like, get the chances to be at a better position than they should, So yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like, when I saw them, like, when I saw D Smoke win, I was like, damn. I told myself, I was like, you're in the room with these guys for a reason. You're on the show auditioning for a reason. Like, you ain't no clown. Like, they got you here for a reason with these guys. And D Smoke won. D Smoke went, I think he was the artist that went up before me. So he auditioned right before I did. And so when I see that now, I'm like, damn. The guy that won the show, I was right before him. Meaning, I'm not saying I'm on his level, but I'm certainly around that area. If I'm auditioning for the same shit he's auditioning for, Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. And I know like LA has its highs right now. Congrats on the Dodgers and like the Lakers like winning. Like it's like a big day. It's like a big day for like LA like right now. Like I imagine like if there's gonna be a parade coming soon. But yeah, like it's been a while. Like I think with the Dodgers, it's been their first championship since like the 1940s or 50s or something like that. So yeah. Yeah. But like I know like with LA it experienced like 2 losses, like one like at the beginning and like one just almost like a year and a half from now, like with the deaths of like Nipsey Hussle and Kobe Bryant. So did those like deaths like those deaths like impact you in a big way due to you being from like Cali? And did you ever like reminisce on any moments where both of these like men played a role for you in your life?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not gonna say I knew Nipsey as far as like every song on his discography and as far as like every track, but as a man, I started to see how much he was really trying to change the world and just be a better person for himself and be a better person for everybody, not just in music, And I remember when Nipsey first came out on the freshman cover, and I was like, "Dang, that guy kind of looks like Snoop," Like that's kind of cool. And when I first heard his track, it was a remix off J Rock's track. I forgot the name of it, but it was one of his first tracks on Bullets Got No Name. But I was like, damn, Nipsey's really pretty fucking dope, But I didn't keep up with his career like that until after his death. And then after his death, I really then started paying attention to his interviews and his songs. And man, like when he speaks, it's like you just listen, and it's a beautiful thing because I want to be able to do that too. But I fell victim to one of the people who didn't listen to him a lot until he passed away. But now, since then, I just listen to it a lot. Just try to learn from him, and as far as the lessons that he was trying to teach, and yeah, man. But probably Kobe dying was probably the biggest impact for me as far as deaths. And man, that shit hurt, bro. Like, because I grew up watching Kobe in LA. In 2010 when he won that chip, man, I remember running home from my 8th grade graduation just to try to watch Game 7 of the Lakers playing the Celtics, and I remember them winning, and I was like, fuck, this feels so amazing, And just watching Kobe tear his Achilles and go through all the Dwight drama and all that shit, just it felt like somebody I knew. It felt like somebody, like a big brother. Like Nipsey and Kobe felt like big brothers that I listened to, and I listened to it.
Yeah.
Try to learn from.
Okay.
And but when Kobe died, man, that shit tore my heart, bro. Like,
yeah.
Whew, I would say that was the worst part of 2020. Kobe dying was probably the worst part of 2020, and his Mamba mentality was always something that I tried to incorporate in my life and in my music, to just go after it, just fucking be the best that you can be, and that's just something that I always just tried to, instill within myself. And I even got Kobe's Mamba mentality tatted on me.
Oh, nice! That looks
yeah. That's how much Kobe means to me, and losing those two guys, it feels like a loss for our society, because they were trying to teach us to be better human beings and better with the way we learn and process the world and the way we move forward in the world. And even like when Black Panther died, man, that shit fucking hurt a lot too. Yeah. It just feels like, because I feel like these guys aren't people anymore. They become symbols of something better than themselves, and to just lose those symbols before our eyes just hurts, But their memories are gonna live on forever, and their ideas are gonna live on forever. Yeah. And man, rest in peace and paradise to them. Yeah. Love those guys.
Yeah. I mean, with Kobe, like, I've started like following like his career like earlier on, like around like maybe the early like 2010s, like for a bit too, and then I like heard his stuff like here and there, like watching, his Game of Jordan, to seeing him play like in the early like 2000s, to seeing him play like now, and like his I think at his worst points, like between 2014 to 2016, when he wasn't as active as much as he thought, and like his last game, I think against Toronto, where he scored. I think either it was in Toronto like a while back, or like his other last game. I think he scored like, I think, 63 points. Like that was like proper blessing. And like his last game in 2016, like it was also like one of his best moments. And like after that time, like I just like bought like a jersey from there and just reminisce on those moments. And I think with Kobe, he was a symbol to LA as much as to Nipsey Hussle, Tupac, and everyone else. And the way like they represent for the people, they represent like for the common man, for how we should progress like at a higher rate than we should, to never give up on like those dreams and everything like that, and to always like also settle down like when things start to like go down for a bit too. Like it's something to also like look into as well. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, those guys. The thing I admire about those guys is I feel like they figured out life in their way and their perspective, and that's just something I always feel like I want in my life, is to be able to figure out life for me and just go after it.
Yeah.
And this going down this path of hip hop, I feel like it's right, but at the end of the day, no one can really answer that until it all ends, which is scary at times. So that's why I admire those guys, because they realized their life at such a young age, and they just started going for it without no doubts, without anxieties. That's probably why I admire them so much, especially Nipsey. Like a lot of Nipsey's music is just him being like, yo, like I know who the fuck I am, and I know what the fuck I'm trying to go for, and not to quote him, but that's what I got from his music, is just that I know what I want to do in my life and for the people around me, and I'm just gonna go for it. And it's something so simple, but it's something so difficult to do in life, because I can say I'm just gonna go for it, but then at the back of my mind I'm like, okay, how am I gonna pay for my house? How am I gonna feed my family? How am I gonna, but yeah, so
no doubt.
That's why it's so admirable. Those guys, I love those guys.
Yeah, that's true. I know that you said like earlier on, like that you're influenced mainly by West Coast music, but like as of a current like artist today, like just from you today, from you before, what artists or genres were you mainly like influenced by, like either like as of right now or as of before, besides the West Coast scene? And in the future, like once you start to progress, like which artists would you like to like work with someday?
Well, for me, honestly, to simplify it, I feel like I got influenced by the West Coast music, yes, but more so as an attitude. I got influenced at the West Coast attitude of just, we're the fucking West and we make good music and we're the fucking West. That's the best way to explain it. But as far as style and rapping and my cadence and just the way I attack around, it's more like, I want to say the East Coast. I rap like more bar for bar, 16s, just Wu-Tang, like I said, Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z, Big Pun, all the guys from the East that I looked up to. Biggie too, like I felt like Biggie was definitely a huge part of learning how to just straight delivery, be nice with it, be clean with it. And but as of right now, I'm still growing as an artist, as far as just like swag and just making dope shit. I probably like look up to like Future, Young Thug, Migos, a lot of these artists, but those three mostly are the ones that I could name off the top of my head. As far as creativity, I hope to one day be as creative as Kanye or like Trav and just go after like what the fuck is in their head, like, because they'll come up with some shit in their head and they're like, all right, I'm gonna make that shit, and then they make it happen. And I want to be able to have that kind of resume as them, not as far as their music, as far as as the shit they do. Like Trav is killing it right now. He's coming out with Jordans, shoes, fucking McDonald's deal. He just signed to do a PlayStation. You know, that's the kind of shit I want to be on to in the future. But yeah, man, like yeah.
No doubt. And I think just to end off the interview with this last question, what are your plans for this year in terms of like any music or any other creative projects and so forth? I know like with COVID, it might change here and there, but like there's still like the last 2 months left, and like, do you have like any other like final words you would like to say for any creative or any person like pursuing their dreams?
Okay. Well, as the year ends, I feel like this year was definitely not just a break check for me, but a break check for everybody around the world because of COVID. You know, it sucks. Like, it put a lot of our lives on pause, and I would even say it dramatically changed a lot of our lives because now the world's never going to be the same for anybody. So I had to adapt to that, whatever my plans were. But towards the end of the year, I wanted to just finish building the confidence and identity of who I am and how I make people perceive me. And as far as music, I want to be better in my skill and as far as just pure rapping and just creativity. But honestly, a lot of it is just confidence and work ethic. That's really what I want to. I want to be a harder worker, more consistent about the shit that I do, and I want to make the dopest shit. You know, hopefully next year things ease up a little bit. But I'm working on my mixtape right now, which is something I've spent a couple months on it already, and this is the first time where I've spent time on a mixtape or just a project where I'm dissecting each track and trying to see how can I make each thing better on it, whether it's lyrics or beats. And I'm really excited for this, and I hope that when it comes out that everybody can see the dedication I put into it and the love that I put into it. And if I had a message for any other artists, is to just, it really starts with just believing in yourself. Like, as cliche as that shit, man, just, you gotta be your biggest fucking fan. Even if sometimes the shit you tell yourself is irrational, you need it. Because this journey and this game is so grimy and so fucking difficult. And the amount of people that are going to come to you and tell you, yo, you fucking suck, yo, you can't do this shit. The amount of people that are going to tell you, yo, you're the best at this shit, you're good, you can make it. You're going to get so much of that shit that at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is yours and what you want. And it's so cliche, but that's what it really boils down to, is that you really, really, really ask yourself, like, what the fuck do you want to do? What do you want to do? And how do you want to do it? And just step away from the people you want to step away from and just go towards the people you need to be around. And at least that's what I'm learning personally, you know, and also just to never lose the passion and love that you have for your craft and the shit that you do, because this game is fucking, like I said, this game is grimy, bro. Like, they're gonna try to rob you of your resources, and for lack of a better word, just try to rape you out of your love and passion, you know, for what you got. And you need to have a childlike love for what you do. You know, like, you know, when we were kids, man, like, let's say we got the newest action figure, right? And we fucking love that action figure. And we would never, like, no, you can't freaking play with my action figure. This shit's mine. You need to have that kind of love for the shit you do as you grow older, because that's, you know, as you grow older, the world is going to force you to grow up mentally and tell you to, you know, get a career, get a fucking job, and get, you know, pay the bills and shit, you know. And I found myself a victim of that, because now there's moments where I ask myself, like, damn, I don't love this shit as much as I used to. And I put that in check and I try to regain that love again, you know. But so if you have a tremendous amount of love for what you do right now, remember to hold on to it for dear life, because there are going to be people that try to rip that shit away from you every second of the day, especially as you keep going up. You know, people are going to try to tell you, yo, you should rap like this. Yo, you should do this, you know. But at the end of the day, you decide. You really decide. Yeah.